Are you ready for your first fight? There's only a few things that you need to look out for to know that you're ready for your first fight, and they're all really important. Number one is the confidence of your coach. If you ask your coach, hey coach, do you think that I'm ready to take a fight? Either his answer will be, or their answer will be, yes, I think you're ready, or they'll say, I think you'll be ready in X amount of months with consistent training, right? But you don't want to step into a cage without a coach, number one, and without the confidence of your coach, because the coach is going to be the one wrapping your hands, coach will be the one giving you warm-ups, coach is going to be the one in your corner. It's the coach's job to make sure that you can at least step in the cage and walk away without getting, killed or hurt, right? Next is the confidence of your peers in the gym, right? So if people are walking up to you all the time, and they're asking you when you've had a fight, they ask you how many fights you've had, they ask if you're a fighter, they tell you things like, you're a beast, man, or you're a savage, or you're great at sparring, and they're always complimenting you on your skills or your toughness, or, people just assume that you're a fighter, then that's a really good sign that you're ready for a fight. Like people at my gym, before I even had fights, just assumed that I was a fighter, or they assumed that, I had competed somehow, just because of how consistent I was, and, that I trained really hard, and that, I got my ear fucked up. So that kind of, I guess, helps with the image. The next thing is power. Do you have the power to hurt somebody in your own weight class, right? So I'm a 135, 145 fighter, right? And so I have plenty of power to knock somebody the fuck out who weighs 135 or 145 pounds. And so you don't have to have like raw knockout power, but you have to have enough power to make people respect you. And if you fire off a counter, right, and you catch them with a clean right hook, right, they shouldn't just be able to eat it and be like, oh, I don't got to worry about this guy, I'm just going to walk through him, right? You need to have enough power to, either knock people out or at least make them respect you, and that way you can, accumulate damage, or, if you don't have knockout power, at least have enough power that they don't want to take shots from you, right? The next is defense. Do you know how to parry? Do you know how to slip? Do you know how to pivot and take angles? Do you know how to check kicks? Do you know how to take kicks the proper way? Do you understand distance and how to, close distance and how to maintain distance, right? So you want to make sure that your defense is enough that, again, you can go in the cage and not get yourself killed and not get, seriously injured. Cardio. Do you have the right amount of cardio to at least be able to build up to fight ready cardio, right? So a standard basic amount of cardio that you should have is that hard sparring in the gym, you should be able to do at least 3-minute rounds, because that's an amateur fight, that's a non-title fight. So you should be able to, when I say hard spar, I mean, you're throwing maybe 80, 100% ideally to the body and the legs, and then, maybe 40, 50% to the head, right? Because you never want to take too much head damage, right? But you're able to go in there and bang for 3-minute rounds without, falling down on the ground and, just wanting to die, right? And then the last thing is your own confidence. Are you confident in yourself? Do you feel like when you go to MMA events and watch fights, do you feel that when you watch amateur fights, or do you feel that when you're sparring people, do you feel like you're getting the better of people you're sparring? When you watch amateur fights of people who, maybe only have 1, 2, 3 fights, that you can look at them and go, I could beat that guy, right? So you want to have confidence in yourself, and you want to feel like, you know what, I feel like I'm ready for my first fight. At the same time, you don't want to be overconfident. You don't want to be delusional, right? before I had my first fight, because I was gonna have a fight and then I got a neck injury, right? And when I was training for that fight, I was a little bit too overconfident and I was a little bit too delusional about like how good I actually was. And then I got injured, and that forced me to go through a lot of personal growth over, the last, for the, definitely for the time that I was out, because I was at the point I couldn't even walk. And so that knocked me down a couple pegs in the delusional confidence category, right? But I developed healthy nerves when it came to the actual process of stepping in the cage and fighting, and the nerves can be good because they can help you get ready to fight, and they can help you get into that, sort of warrior mentality. Because if you're going to step in a cage damn near naked and be locked in a cage with somebody and fight, like, you should have a healthy amount of fear and nerves that comes along with that. And then the last thing, I guess, is time frame of like how long you've been training, right? So most people, before they step in a cage, they're probably gonna train for a year or two. If they're starting just from scratch, you have different cases where maybe a guy has been doing jiu-jitsu for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and he's done a bunch of jiu-jitsu tournaments, or someone who was a high-level high school wrestler or college wrestler, so they were competing all the time, or just people who have done other combat sports, kickboxers, right? But if you're just starting from scratch, kind of like I was, I mean, I had done martial arts and stuff as a kid, and some boxing and different things like that, and I wrestled as a kid for a couple years, and played football, so I had a lot of that competitive background, and then obviously I fought in the street a lot, so I was used to the feeling of what it felt like to fight. But me, I'm 28 now. I started training consistently at about 24, and I had my first fight about 2 months ago, and I've had my first fight, and then I had another fight since then. I have another fight coming up in 2 weeks. I trained for 3.5 years consistently before I actually set foot in the cage, and I think that was probably a little bit too long, because I got to the point where I started to mind fuck myself, because I had a couple fights fall through, and then I got injured, and obviously that fight didn't go through, and I just got to a point where I started to mind fuck myself, like, is this ever gonna happen? Am I ever gonna fucking step in the cage, right? So I'd say, depending on just like how athletic you are and your background and being athletic and being competitive and how consistent you are and everything, look between 1 and 2 years from start to when you step into the cage for the first time. And there's people who are